Interference is possible at all levels of language. The main deviations from the norms of English at the phonetic are associated with the typological differences between English and native languages, with the peculiarities of the native language, the degree of English proficiency, and the lack of natural English language environment. First of all, the phenomenon of speech interference in the conditions of the formed artificial multilingualism concerns the lower level of language, its phonetic aspect. The most pronounced and widespread phonetic interference is at initial stage of learning a foreign language. Manifestations of phonetic interference can be seen in almost every English lesson. First of all, it's a change of place of stress in some foreign words under the influence of the native language. It is also the pronunciation of letters that are not pronounced in English. Such errors account for about 28% of the total number of errors caused by phonetic interference. No less common is the wrong stress. The stress falls on the first syllable if it is nouns, and the second syllable if it is a verb. Suspect, suspect. Conflict, conflict. Progress, progress. Permit, permit. About 13% are errors caused by incorrect reading of letter combinations. For example, the teacher needs to correct such mistakes from the first lesson, regardless of which phonetic phenomena have already been studied and which have not. In the case of correcting such mistakes at the beginning of training, they don't become a skill, the correction of which further takes more time than needed immediately. Phonetic errors are violations in the pronunciation of certain sounds, words, phrases, sentences. They're especially noticeable when reading aloud. Among the phonetic errors are often errors of incorrect pronunciation of the corresponding letter. Thus, when learning English, students for a long time confuse the words do and go. The word with is read as with. The ending of the past tense of the verb ed after a d sound is read as ed instead of t. For example, liked instead of liked, and make other phonetic errors. At the initial stage of learning, students often rearrange the sounds in the word. Thus, the English word big is read as gimp. The word dog is read as god. Errors of a phonological nature distort the sound form and meaning, complicate and disrupt the act of communication. The potential field of the phonetic interference is determined by the typological differences of phonological systems of Ukrainian and English languages, the presence of long vowels in English and their absence in Ukrainian, the presence of phoneme in English that are not present in Ukrainian, for example, s, z, o, etc. Thus, at the phonetic level, interference occurs if the distinguishing feature characteristic of the phonetic system of the language is absent in another language. For example, in English, speaker doesn't see much similarity between. At the same time, this mistake is the most common among Ukrainian students studying English as a first foreign language. The omission of the sound th with t or s is about 39% of all analyzed phonetic errors. Students make mistakes in reading English letters that coincide graphically with Ukrainian letters but express other sounds, for example, type, tup. The phenomenon of phonetic interference occurs in the English speech of students quite often, and in some cases leads to a change in the meaning of the word. Phonetic errors occur, for example, when there is a difference of stress in word internationalisms. Marketing, they say marketing. To overcome the influence of the interference of the Ukrainian pronunciation, an explicit teaching of English phonetics is required. Such work should include exercises on pronouncing vowel and consonant sounds and exercises on intonation. Below we'll give some examples of these tasks. Students are offered to listen native speakers pronouncing words correctly and repeat after them. They should be given direct instructions on how to pronounce these sounds as compared to the Ukrainian equivalents. It is also advisable to give them in pairs with the Ukrainian words. For example, pin, pin, pick, peak. Emphasizing that in Ukrainian the phonemes p and k are not aspirated, while in English they are. Exercises on the phonemes which are not typical of the Ukrainian language should comprise very detailed explanation and instruction on the production and apply work on them. That, and so on. Work on intonation also implies exercising on reproducing the intonation of the utterance following the native speaker, providing explicit instructions on correct intoning of English phrases and exercises aimed at comparing English and Ukrainian international models of the same types of sentences. That's all. Thank you for your attention.